Grateful that you've come on the show today to tell us about this process, because we must tell these stories. Good evening, America, and good morning, Australia, and welcome to everyone all over the world. You're back on the Author and Artist Hour. I'm your host, Toni Lontis, and my gorgeous co-host, Kez Wickham St. George, will be joining us with our special guest today. Now, just a reminder, if you're listening on live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, the wonderful Peo is ready and waiting in the Philippines to respond to your comments and questions with links and information all about our guest. If you missed that, and if you're driving whilst listening to this, jump on to ToniLontis.com and click on the guest tab, and you will find more information about my co-host and our guests each week. Just a reminder that you can watch the replays of the shows on YouTube, as well as Binge Networks USA, Hero Go TV USA, and the Toni TV channel app, available on all Roku, LG, and Samsung smart TVs across the planet. Now, as you know, a regular part of our show is a welcome to country, and this is an integral part of an international movement which acknowledges the special and important role Indigenous communities play in the development of a country's cultural identity, and Australia is no different. So I want to respectfully acknowledge the people of the Yugambeh language region, Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia, the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and broadcast, and pay my respect to the elders past and present, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here listening today, and with whom we want to encourage more collaboration. Now, my gorgeous co-host, Kez Wickham St. George, is not only an international best-selling author in her own right, she is an author's mentor, an artist, and provides amazing video book reviews for most of our guests each and every week. She does multiple of these. They're very popular, and she does an amazing job. So if you're wanting your book reviewed by an international best-selling author, please reach out to the gorgeous Kez Wickham St. George on all socials, and the links will be appearing wherever you see this show. Now, today's guest is a long-standing and personal friend of mine. Thomas Russell and I started our journeys into live radio at about the same time, and we've stayed in contact, and I have been trying to get him back on my show for ages, and I'm so delighted that he's here today. But before I introduce you to Tom, here's what you need to know. Tom is an author in his own right, and he has managed to have an amazing show / podcast of his own called Life Without Limits. And today we want to talk to you about Tom's journey, his journey in writing books, and of course his live radio show as well. Life Without Limits has become a brand in its own right and is accompanied by his books and his podcasts. And we also want to know what's next for Tom, because some things have been happening in the background. I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to welcome Tom to the show, and I'm going to hand over to Kez. Tom Russell, welcome to the Author and Artist Hour. Good morning, a good evening rather to you. How are you?
Man, it's been taking forever to get on your show, Toni, but I'll take it anytime. If I have to be up at 12 o'clock at night, I'll do it.
Oh, you're so
I won't
good.
be awake, but I can do it.
Those time zones coordination between Australia and the US can be really tricky. And so, if we add into the equation Australia, US, and different parts of the US and different parts of Australia, it becomes really tricky. So, I'm in Queensland, Kez is in Western Australia, so I'm on the east coast of Australia, Kez is on the west coast of Australia, the team in BBS are in Texas in the US, and Tom is on what time zone?
Yeah,
Eastern time, which
Eastern
is
time zone. Yeah,
Indianapolis time. So
right.
there you go. What a combination. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking and hand over to the gorgeous Kez. Good morning, Kezi.
Good morning. I just took a big drink. Tom, how are you?
I am just awesome. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, good. Now, I have some questions for you. I had them all typed up and all ready to ask you, but we've already talked and I've had to take a couple of those questions off. But but the first one I had for you was you wrote a book about a young boy called Finding Your True North. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Finding Your True North, a bullied teen's journey of hope. That's the subtitle there.
Okay. So this child was relentlessly bullied, causing him to have no sense of worth. And as a writer myself, sometimes I find my own life experiences interfere with what I'm writing, and I get quite angst about the whole thing. Do you find that in your writing?
No, absolutely not. It was more of a catharsis for me. But this is a fictional book, but there's some elements of nonfiction part of it, a story of my life that I went through when I was a kid. I don't know if you can see this now, but my nose, what I consider was really big. It stood out. Now both of you are now looking at my nose. Now I bet you are, aren't you?
No, we are not.
Well, I was very self-conscious of it, and and then people in middle school would say things like, "Your nose needs its own zip code. Your nose arrives in the room 5 minutes before you do." All these different things that it affected me, and I didn't respond. That was my problem. I didn't respond because I got insulated in myself, and and I just kept it in. And I never told anybody about it until I started talking to kids in an organization called 5-Star Life, where I just felt like I needed to tell people how I felt about myself at the time. And with the book, I wanted to write about things that the kids are going through, because I work with middle school kids with 5-Star. And the 5 things, the core values that we talk about with these kids are sacrifice, integrity, respect, responsibility, and courage. And we also talk about bullying. I wanted to tie both of those things together where, Toni, you know this because we've talked about this before. I focus on the bullying aspect of everything. Not here's tip 1, here's tip 2, here's tip 3, how to stop a bully. The biggest thing is how do you work on yourself to get up your self-esteem.
Correct.
And you have to do that before you even go up against the bully, because bully preys on weakness, and that's part of your weakness, is because you don't believe in yourself, you don't feel like you're worthy. And so what I wanted to do, I want to put the character in a position where he learns about these 5 core values, and with different characters in the book, where he starts building up his self-esteem, and he puts himself, I put him, the character, the boy, in situations where he makes mistakes, and he learns from those mistakes, like a middle school, like a young teenager would. And he gets the idea that, I'm worthy. And then he gets to the point where he can decide how he's going to deal with the bully. And also he lives in a dysfunctional family with an alcoholic father. He has to deal with that. And my father, by the way, was not an alcoholic. It was just, as writers, Kaz, you well know, is we have a license for
we do
We
Yes.
do. We can make things up if we need to, but it need to be authentic, you know. And I'm so proud of that book.
Mm. Right. So yeah, I do the same thing, Tom. I get carried away with my characters, and you know, when it comes to being cathartic, yes, some of my books have proved that way with me, because I think the angst of childhood does remain with us until you can actually write it down. I know Tony's done the same thing with one of her books, and yeah, I find writing quite a release for me at times, especially and I think too, as I've gotten older, I've realized the value of being able to journal and write things down and what's annoyed me for the day and just let me go with it. Don't interrupt me for the next 2 hours. So you've also written another book called The Nowhere Man, and it's about an egotistical, domineering insurance executive who treats people poorly. Again, was this in your life?
No, it's really ironic how it worked out, because in the first book, Finding True North, one of the main characters was a character named Pops, and he was a homeless person. And I became enamored with, I shouldn't, enamored is not the really appropriate word. I was focusing on what it's like for someone to be homeless. And though I was never homeless, I didn't have a contact as much with a homeless person. I decided to look around, and at the time I was I just finished a 3-year stint being a transport driver across the country, and over my travels, I would meet these homeless people, and for research for my book, I would sit down with homeless people, and I want to find out their story, you know, and the reason why they are the way they are, or how they got to be where they are. You know, what's like to drink alcohol, because I don't drink alcohol, and the character in the first book, the boy, he drank alcohol for the first time. So I wanted to learn more about that. And then after I got this book out, and I said, I gotta do another one. I gotta do another book, what I'm going to write about. And I came up with this idea about doing about homelessness, and it's a composite of 3 different people that I've met in my life. And I weaved their story into the book, but at the same time, it's a fictional book, so you have to have, you have to write something that's easy to the palate, that you're able to weave a story that is tension filled and empathetic towards homeless people. And what the idea about the book was putting that one of the characters, one of the composites was a guy who was really successful, and through getting involved with drugs and alcohol, he lost his job and he became homeless. And I was watching how he was handling it. But in this case, the main character, the guy, he just treated everyone poorly. His family, people at work, people he met, homeless people that he met. And then he ends up getting amnesia, and then he becomes homeless. And so what I did was I put him in situations as a homeless people, even though he didn't know the reason why he was there. I wanted to be emblematic of what it's like to live every single day, not knowing when your next meal is or where you're going to sleep, all these different things. And in the process, I wanted to turn it over to how he was treated by other people. And this is how homeless people are treated quite a bit. And I'm empathetic to a fault. And so I tried to weave that story so people can get thrust into his life. And then I won't give away the whole book, but basically he gets in a position where he gets his memory back. I'll just say that. Then he has to make a decision whether he wants to go back to his previous life or try to live a life of a lot more peace in his life. But there's a little backstory, and there's some twists in the book that I think would. Let's put it this way, Toni and Kaz, when you write a book, it's like you're writing a play, right? Because
that's right. That's right. Yes.
So I wrote it in the vein of a screenplay. And when you get caught up in that, it took me 2.5 months to write the second book. And I was laid up.
That was quick.
Well, I was, there's a reason why, because I was laid up with a herniated disc. for 5 months. And I laid on the couch for 24/7. And I said, I got to do something to be constructive. So I sat down, I wrote for like 40,000 words in a month.
Oh,
That's
it's a
all I
lot
did.
of words.
That's all I did. I just,
Yeah.
that's how I got through it. That's how I focused. And so I got it done. And I'm really happy with this. And in fact, I did an interview with an actor about 2 months ago. And he gave my book to a director. And I talked to the director, and we're hoping to see that second book into a movie or
It's amazing.
short film.
Well done.
And what's beauty of this whole is this goes back to you asked that question, why I got started when I did. I'm 60 years old now. And a lot of people are 60 years old are trying to wind down, thinking about retirement. That's the farthest thing from my mind, because I have so much I want to do with my life. And if I don't try to look at other things, then I'm not really moving in my life. And that's where my enthusiasm comes. I think you can tell with my voice. I'm really excited about it.
You are excited about it. And I'd love to read your books. I found when I wrote my books that I'd already unknowingly had done the research. I had been involved I wasn't homeless, but outside where I worked, there were a lot of homeless people. What I found amazing was they actually were a village. They weren't just homeless. They had become a family, even though there was children roaming around the tents, and there were just little pup tents. And actually where I live in WA in Rockingham, I don't know if it's still there, but there was an old picture theatre parking ground, and they found the homeless had congregated there as well. So they were just outside McDonald's, where they had free showers and toilets. But on the other side was the most beautiful beach in the world, and they had a 24/7 holiday. It was just, sometimes you look at it and you think, wow, what a lifestyle. So yeah, there was a little bit of not so much research, but I was involved.
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. You can't write about it if you don't have any kind of experience with it, not necessarily being homeless, but you have to put yourself in that person's position. And whenever I do anything, with my radio show, I get immersed in researching my guest as best as I can. So when I do the show live, then we're all ready to go, because I know more of their backstory, and it makes for a richer conversation. And that's what I really enjoy about doing the show.
Toni.
Tom, first and foremost, I'm just so grateful. Number one, for our friendship. Number two, I've read both of your books, and they're cracking stories. And number three, I think that one of the things that bonded us in the first instance was that story around childhood bullying and how it impacts on your life. And I remember talking to you about the impacts of, not being able to smile like other people, and that interaction that it involves. And then the longer self-worth, self-esteem, self-worthy conversation that sometimes takes us in decades down the track before we feel remotely worthy. And so for you and I, that was in our 40s and 50s, and now into your 60s, before you go, actually, I'm a unique and worthy human being. And every single child on the planet needs to have that embedded in their life, that it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, you've been gifted a uniqueness that is not replicable across the planet. So don't let anyone take that away from you. And in talking about that, what happens as we age, I think, and Kez can speak to this as well, I love aging. I love the wisdom that comes with age. I haven't always liked the lessons that have come with age. Some of them are, and still are, incredibly challenging and difficult. But you get into your 50s and 60s, and there's a comfortable confidence that comes with the age you are and the wisdom that you've gained along the way. And I think that that's a precious gift as we age. And I know, Tom, that you didn't start even writing until you were 52, and you've accomplished amazing things in the short time that we've known each other. And one of the things that we've always talked about is that about our dreams. And I know from our early conversations that you'd almost given up on your dreams.
Mm.
And our conversations were often around me saying, don't give up, Tom. Please don't give up, Tom. Please don't give up, Tom. Please don't give up, Tom, until you started to get it and started
Yeah.
to, like, there was a change I saw as our friendship progressed. I could see the changes that Tom was making. So, Tom, I wanted to talk to that about what had caused you to sort of doubt yourself and give up on your dreams, and the amazing things that are happening for you now are actually testament to what happens when you reignite those dreams. So tell me about reigniting those dreams.
Well, I always wanted to be a writer. I knew that
Mm.
back in fourth grade. You know, my teacher, Mrs. Evans, she encouraged me, and so I was writing. The newspaper in high school, and I wanted to be a sports writer for Sports Illustrated when I got out of college. I had all these aspirations, but I would tell people this. And here's the thing: you tell people that you're going to do something, but in the back of your mind, I'm thinking to myself, "Ain't no way." Chunky butt, you're not going to do this. You're just not going to do it. I talk myself into it all the time, that self-doubt. And it just turned me, and I would give up. And I didn't finish college. I got a year in, and I told people I couldn't afford to go to college. But the truth was, I didn't think I could. I had to quit because I didn't think. I think the biggest thing is a lot of people fear failure, but I've also told
Mm.
people all this time, I fear success. I always
Yeah.
wondered what would actually happen if something good happened with me, and
Yeah.
I followed through with it. Because if I didn't follow through with something, that was my problem. I get to the precipice of getting to a point where I achieved something, and then I would give up. And when I turned 23, I found a job through a friend of mine. I became a managing editor for a national magazine. And at age 23, that's not possible. But I walked into that thing not knowing enough about, it's called, in the RV industry, it's called RV Trade Digest. And I never walked into this job thinking I earned it, because I didn't feel like I earned it. But I don't know what it was. I worked there for 6 years, and it was the best job I ever had. But over this course of the 6 years, I felt like I was living a fraud life. Not because of what I was doing or that I didn't belong. I just felt like this isn't the path I wanted to go. And unfortunately, the industry went into a recession in 1991. That goes way back. And so the magazine was struggling, and I was working 3 days a week, and I couldn't do any more. I had to move on.
Mm.
That was the moment I gave up on my dream. So
Mm.
I gave up my dream at age 30, and I didn't feel that I had anything out there that I wanted to do full time in a writing career. And again, I just gave up. I get to that point, and then when I started working with Five Star back in 2006, start working with these kids, and you tell these kids,
Mm.
you know, Joe, you can do anything you want to do with your life. Let's see what you want to do with your life, and let's work towards this and everything. And I did this for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, telling these kids this. And I finally got to the point when I was 50, late 50s or 51. And I said, "What in the heck are you doing, Tom?" He said, "Like, why are you telling these kids you can do this and you're not doing it yourself?" And so in my mind, I don't know, it's like an epiphany, Toni and Kaz. I don't know what it
Mm.
was. It was like, you're going to start something and you're going to finish it this time. And the best feeling that you ever have when you have these dreams is you have a goal, you have a pathway you want to do it. And when I talked about finding true north, that's how I came with the title of the book was, when you have these dreams, it's way up there in the rafters, and you're trying to reach for it. And then over the course of time, as soon as you make that decision, boom, you have all these obstacles that come your way. You have these branches in this tree that you're going, and you follow that branch, and then you realize, well, let's back up here, folks. I got to come back, and I got to come back and go towards my dream, rather than saying that going down obstacle and saying something's happening there that's going to stop me from doing what I want to do, accomplish my dream. And that's what I didn't want to do. And I said, I'll focus on this. So I finished the book in 4 months, not knowing how to. I don't know about you, Toni and Kaz. We're trying to find a publisher. That's what Google's for. But I mean, trying to find a publisher for a book is I didn't want to go the traditional way, because it would take forever to get that done.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to pay thousands of dollars to a vanity publisher, and all they do is they publish the book. And I didn't want to do that. But I was able to find somebody who was reasonably priced, and I did it. And throughout this process, I kept thinking, and you may come to this question later on, is everyone has to know when you follow your dream, that's not the end of your dream. Your dream is your what's next. Because if you don't have that what's next, you're not going to have something that you want to go for, whether it's the book you're writing or it's a job that you're working.
Exactly.
You have to fight yourself all the time and saying you can't rest on your laurels. You just can't, because it just kills you. It's a killer, because if you start doing that, and this is what I did, was once I got to made that decision, I knew that I was giving up, and I kept thinking, how am I going to get this book out? How am I going to promote it? And you two know the worst thing, not the worst thing, but the most uncomfortable thing, awkward thing to do is self-promote yourself.
Oh, yes.
And I hate it. I hate it to the day. It's 8 years I've been doing this, and this is what we're doing. We're doing a show, and I'm promoting myself. Excuse me. But it's necessary. It's just like one of my family members said, like 3 or 4 years in, he said, you know what? God is telling you that you're only doing this for the fame. And I came back. I'm not sure if I told you this. I'm not sure if I told this. Yeah, I see you shaking your head. And I came back and said, what do you do for a living? And he told me, and he said, no, your employer requires you to do certain things in your job, then you do it, right? And of course he said, yes. And I said, well, this is the same thing when you're an author. You're self-employed as an author, although I had another job. But you have to treat this as you're taking ownership of this book, and you have to do whatever it takes to get yourself out there. And it's the most uncomfortable thing to do, because people think that I don't know how other people think, but like you're vain and all you're doing is for the glory.
It's not about that. It's
not even close. Not even close, because it's a craft. I mean, this craft of writing a book, there's only about 1% of people who actually write a book anyway, although it's probably going up right now. But when you write a book, you just, if you just let it sit there and do nothing and collect dust, why did you write the book in the first place? You want to you write the book because you want people to read it, because you're proud of it, and you want your message in the book. And these two books are powerful. I can't tell. This is Nowhere Man Who Whistles Backwards, and this is Finding True North: A Bully Teen's Journey.
Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll get that later. But the thing is, what's beauty about this thing is you just keep pushing along. And so my what's next was, I did book signings. I walked in at Barnes and Noble and asked if they would be interested in carrying my book. And then I said, oh, by the way, the local newspaper is doing a story on me. So I said, he goes, well, wait a minute, let's put 20 books in here. And by the way, can you come in do a book signing? And this is Barnes and Noble. Okay. Yeah. I didn't have a clue. And the thing is I just went in there. I wasn't worried about a no. Yeah. And the worst no you're ever going to get is the one you never ask. Yeah. And I was never worried about rejection ever. It's not, I don't care. I really don't care. Even if I did get rejected, I just move on. And then I do other book signings. I've done TV shows. I've been in newspapers, and I've done a lot of different things. But it's always the fact that, okay, I've done this. Where am I going to go from here? And this book has been out for 8 years now. And I'm still promoting the book because it's a powerful book.
Yes, you should.
And that's the other thing. If you've been given a message and a story, and you take that to the next step and make it into a book, um, this is really personal for me too, Tom, because there's similarities around that whole idea that people will come back at you and say, "Oh, but you're promoting yourself." I actually now say, "And what is wrong with that?" I've been
Mm,
given a message. I've been given a vision and a mission. If I don't follow through on that vision and mission, someone out there suffers. And when I put it back like that, that's helped me a lot, because I, like you, Tom, struggle with that whole self promotion. I still
mm,
struggle with that self promotion. The only way I can rationalize it in my unworthy brain is to go, if I deprive the world of the message that's been given to me, someone out there suffers. Another
mm,
human being is not helped because I can't get out in front of people and talk about my
mm,
book, my program, whatever it is, because it's not about you. And you know that, Tom. It's
Mm.
not about you. It's about
mm.
the messages in the book, and they're powerful messages that you've written. And I'm so glad you haven't given up on your dreams, Tom.
Mm.
Kezzy?
Well, I agree with Tom. I think to promote yourself is hard. It is hard. There's no doubt about that.
Mm.
Uh, how do I promote myself? As often as possible, I had to swallow the pride bubble and think nobody's going to pay attention to me. Who am I? And then realize that I had a message, and my message was about domestic violence and bullying, and just that feeling. If I've helped one person in my whole lifetime, if I've helped just one person, I've done my job. That's how I see it. I don't care if I really don't care. I've done my job. I want people to read the book. If they realize that there are steps you have to take to remove yourself from different situations in your life. And yes, we all go down different pathways. And the tree you just mentioned, we all have that tree. We've all got to come back to the main trunk, and think, what was my purpose? Listen to your message. It's there. It's just there. We all have it. But if we allow ourselves to wander, the message gets confused. Yeah. So my
Well,
question to you, Tom, is the message. What is your actual message?
my message is empathy, because I want people to know that there are people out there who are struggling, and with the beauty of being empathetic is you don't worry about what other people think, what you say, because
Mm,
I've sent messages to Toni before. Every Lent, I tell a story all the time, but I think it bears repeating. Every Lent for 40 days, I will send a message to a family or friend of mine, an encouraging message of hope, and just encouraging. And quite frequently, what happens is I get people answer back. I said, thank you for sending this. I needed to hear that today.
mm,
I'm going through all this junk in my life, and it's comforting to know that there's someone else out there who
mm,
cares about what's going on in my life. I don't have a clue what they're going through. I
mm,
don't. But there, one person I sent a few years ago, because this is my 10th year doing it, is I'd sent the message, and she said, I don't know why you sent this, but I need to hear that today, because I don't think you know this. I was going to commit suicide.
oh dear, that's
And
terrible.
and that took me back, because, Tom, this is the reason why you're doing this. You don't want to do it for a pat in the back. You don't want a good acclamation or affirmation or whatever
Mm,
adjective you want to use. You do it because you want to let other people know that you care.
mm,
And I think it's important, particularly in today's divisiveness in the entire world,
mm,
not in Australia or United States or wherever, is because we need to let other people know that we genuinely care. And I go to restaurants, and I can see that there's a person who's struggling as a server, and I'll just get a piece of paper and I'll write an encouraging note to them. And it takes 5 minutes, guys. That's it.
I know.
You know, and they generally what happens is they start crying because they don't know that someone's actually noticing what's going on. And I'm really good at watching people.
All writers are. All good writers are anyway.
Watching people, listening, and listen to their story, not what they're telling me on the surface, but what's going on inside. Because I ask very leading questions about what's going on in their life, until I get to the point where I can see that what they're really struggling with. And working with 5-star, you have to do that, because with middle school kids, man, particularly boys, I don't know, with boys, it takes you a long time to gain their trust to actually open up to you. And so I learned that trait with 5-star by being able to do that in my entire life. And man, we went off track with this thing, didn't we?
No, I just wanted to ask you a motivational question here. You say that you have an inspiring quote, and I'd like to read it. You choose your life rather than settle for mediocrity is the enemy of excellence. Can you explain? That fascinated me. Can you explain that to the audience?
Right. I mean, if you think about it, mediocrity, if you settle for mediocrity as opposed to seeking excellence, not perfection, I'm talking about excellence. Because if you put forth the effort, whatever it is you're doing, whether writing a book or working or family on that life, whatever, you put 100% of your effort on that particular time that you do. And so if you choose to live a mediocre life, you're going to get mediocre results. It's simple as that. And then you get that status quo type thing. You stay where you are because that's where you choose to be. Wherever you are right now in your life that's where you've chosen to be. And I don't want to be that kind of person where I accept what's going on in my life. And I guess the biggest thing is with that quote is I chose at age 52 not to lead that mediocre life. And in the process, I learned so much about myself. I can open my heart up that much more. And it's never about writing a book, promoting a book, all that sort of junk that is required to be what we do. Is you have to be a human being first before you want to be someone with a successful career, because people are going to ferret that out immediately. They can read you like a book, if you want to call it that. They can read you like a book, and I have my heart on my sleeve because people know that I care, and I've learned these past 8 years that it's almost like a rebirth, guys. I'm sorry, I don't mean you guys. I shouldn't say that. It's just a rebirth. it's just a rebirth at age 52 that, though I haven't forgotten what I've done previous to that, it's just at age 52, my entire life pivoted towards something bigger than myself. And that's powerful.
It is very powerful. Yes. Toni?
Tom, one of the other quotes that you like is one that says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're too small. Now, I love this because I have massive, big, scary dreams all the time. But what does it mean for you, Tom? What does it mean for you? Yeah, Kez knows about my big, scary dreams.
Well, let's make it that others can understand that if your dream is to wake up and crawl out of bed, and you get out of bed and that's your success, those dreams are way small. It's just that the analogy is if you don't have something that you wake up in the morning that drives you and say, guess what I get to do today? Not what I have to do today. Guess what I get to do today? And if that is part of your dream, you can have a pep in your step. Even though at age 60 years old, and I don't get out of bed. I crawl out of bed. I roll out of bed. I've got back issues. I got all these issues, but once I get moving, I start to feel a little bit better. But the idea here is you got to get out of bed first. but you have to go with the feeling that man, you are so blessed every single day. You're so blessed to be able to do things in your life that you didn't have the opportunity to do the day before. And it's a choice, because I think of what happens, pertaining to that quote is people make they make decisions every single day. But the thing is you have to decide. I take the word decision out there. You have to go to the next level. You have to actually do it. People decide everything. I'm going to decide to go work out. I'm going to decide to lose weight. I'm going to decide this. But until you put those words into action, it's never going to work for you. And so take decision out of the equation, and you just do it. Because I always tell people me that I'm wrong in this thing is, when you say you're going to try something, in your mind, for most people, I'm sure you can relate, I'm going to try it, but if it doesn't work out, at least I tried. Well, you've already got already one foot out the door saying, I'm not going to do this. And so my thing is, you don't try, you just do. Whether it works out or not, it doesn't really matter. You just do.
Try.
And that's a big difference in how I've lived my life.
So you don't believe in doing just 50%, you do 100%.
It depends on the time of day, but I'm an athlete. I'm a former athlete, and I do things that I'm not supposed to be doing. But in my mind, man, I am crisp. I'm up here in my mind, but physically, I'm not able to do these things. But if I did not have that in my mind, I would be complaining every single step that I take, and I can't live like that. And that's why it's so important to have that dream that is not too small, where there's no substance to it, And even if you don't get the dream that you want, it doesn't really matter. A dream not pursued is a dream failed.
That's right.
Because you just haven't given yourself the chance to do this. And it goes back to the self-worth we all talk about. When you think you don't have that self-worth, you're just going to be struggling constantly with the feeling that when I wrote for the magazine, I didn't feel like I was worthy for that job. And that's a terrible place to be. But the thing is, I wore that mask. Mask of just like, look where I am, guys. I'm an editor for a national magazine. Look where I am. I don't think I really phrase it that way, but I mean, I just kind of, when someone asked me what I did, I said, I'm an editor for a national magazine. I felt good that I could say this, but in the back of my mind, nope, Tom,
Exactly.
And it's just, I don't want to demean that magazine or the owner or the people I worked with. It was just me. It wasn't them. It was just me.
I think that goes for every single human being. And even Oprah has had those feelings in the back of her mind, and it's something we have to conquer, because I'm a firm believer we are all sent here to do something, no matter what it is. And if we don't find, and it's our job to find that something. I'm an author, I'm an artist. Recently I became a poet, and it's the unexpected. But when I was challenged with, would you write some poetry? I said yes, because I knew that it was in me to do so. And I think we have to face our challenges. We have to say yes. And you're very correct, Tom. We have to face them.
I totally agree.
Toni?
Tom, you've got the 2 books. Is there another one coming?
There's actually 3.
Yay!
No, is it 3 or 2? There's one that's on the back burner, but I've enjoyed my 3-year stint with the radio station. I was not thinking, if I was able to let other people know what these stories were about, so what I wanted to have a collection of stories individually from all these different guests that I had, almost like a chicken soup for the soul, and put their story on there in written form.
Yeah. And
I have different categories. I talk about Life Without Limits was, I mean, the people I've met, they've become best friends with me. And and Life Without Limits basically is, we hadn't really delved into this, but it's about people who've overcome challenging circumstances in their life, and they've overcome them, and in the process they inspire people. And I'm always about solutions, and we talk about the problems that they had, but we find out how they got over it and find the solutions to life. And I felt like, I didn't want it to be a one-off with these people. I wanted to put them in a position where their story can last forever. And I think a book would do this.
Yes.
And so that is almost like a chicken soup for the soul.
Yeah.
And I think it would be something incredible.
So
and then,
there's definitely another book coming, and there's a movie in the background.
I see an anthology, actually, Tom.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just going to say an anthology. Kez is great with that stuff. Kez also is delving into the movie realm as well. Her prologue of has been made into a short movie, and I can't wait to see it. Actually, I have to say that it's one of the highlights of my years, hoping to get to see this little movie. Kez and I are actually, you might know, Tom, Australia's been pretty much locked down, and Kez and I have never actually met in person yet, just because of what's been going on with COVID. But I'm going to Perth on the other side of Australia to meet with Kez and do a retreat coming up in May, which I'm incredibly excited about, and which we get to meet lots of authors and artists. But there's something about what happens when you commit to writing a book and you actually write it. And as we've talked about before, it's not actually about you. It's definitely about your message. And Tom, I want to just let the audience know that not only did you run your own show, Life Without Limits, for 3 years, you've got the books, but in the background of all that, the lovely things that you do for the people in and around your life.
Yes.
And I know I've been a recipient of those beautiful messages myself, which have always come at times when I've needed to hear it. But there's your work with young people as well, which we have only just touched on. And the way that you engage with them, the way that you support them, the way that you encourage them, and the way that you get them to focus on some of their dreams. That's powerful work in its own right. So now that the radio show has finished, in the immediate future, what's next?
Well, I don't want to go into particulars why I'm not doing the show, but
Yeah.
I needed
there's valid just for the audience to know, this is actually not about not following dreams. This is just about a circumstances, and I want to just say that as you grow and change over the course of your life, and if you're committing to personal growth, you will get to circumstances and situations where the people that you're working with or aligned with are no longer aligned to your life. And I guess that's a little way, just description of what's happening with Tom around the show. You get to a point where you're just no longer aligned with that person, and you need to move on, which is incredibly trying, difficult, and hard. But I know from Tom's perspective that had to happen because there's some big things that are going to open up because of that step that you've taken, Tom. So
definitely.
Well, I wanted to, after 3 years, I was thinking, because it's really challenging, because each week I have a guest.
Yes.
And trying to find a guest for all those 3 years.
Yes.
I peruse everything. I watch TV and I read, and if I see something that I find a way to contact them, and that takes a little bit of work, which was okay.
It does.
But I was getting burnt out.
Yes.
It's like, where am I going to go next? What am I going to retell the same subject matter over and over again? And it wasn't just me. It was, the guests I was having, they seemed to come together. And although when I had them on the show, that was the best show I've ever done in my life, because it was a guest. And I had to focus on that because I had to be professional about it. But I was just feeling kind of drained.
Yes.
And so I needed to take a break. But, the old me would have said, all right, I did it. I'm done. I'm not going to do anything else. But the new me from the past 8 years is,
Yeah.
it's the what's next. Do I want to continue with what I'm doing? Yes, I do. And I've been looking at different other options. I got 3 other options that I could do to continue what I'm doing. But I've been talking to different people about doing this, but it's just gonna take time. I still need to take a break, but
Yes.
I'm not going to push it back so far that I'm going to get complacent, because that's just not me anymore. It's not going to happen. Not in my watch. And it's not gonna
Fabulous.
happen.
Fabulous.
But it
Yeah.
just has to be my own time, and I'm going to do it right. I don't want to just rush in to get something that I just throw together and thinking, well, people are going to forget me. I can't worry about that. But it's going to continue in the same vein that what I'm doing now. In fact, Toni, guess what? If I'm starting something new, that means you got to come back on my show. So
Absolutely.
So yeah.
That's the other thing, Tom, is that when you make a decision to be a better person and to change the trajectory of your life, the exciting part is, and you have to acknowledge that that's a very scary place to be in, but the exciting part is the people that you get to meet, the people that you get to collaborate with, and the different things that you can achieve and do just simply by saying, okay, I'm going to keep striving for best and better, and let's see where that takes me. And often it takes you on an amazing journey. Even just thinking about Kez, and Kez, you're on your 9th book, yeah? 10th. There you go. See? 10 books. Now, Kez is older than both of us. And she has...
Old.
She's
61, right?
old. She's 50, actually. But she is creating something amazing in the later years of her life. And that's the thing. I don't want people to wait until they're our ages to start making changes in their life. If anyone can look and go, wow, Tom did it. Wow, Kez did it. Wow, Toni did it. Start now. If you've got the idea of a book, start writing. You don't have to know how it's going to end up. You don't have to know whether it's going to get... Just start. Hey, Tom, you just start. Just take a step towards that dream. That's all you got to do. You don't have to worry about the outcome. You don't have to worry about anything else but start. Don't keep it in the back of your head just mulling away and think, oh, I'd like to start today.
That's right.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, well, yes, the thing is, like I said before, you got to find out your why. If you don't know your why, you're never going to write that book. Or if you don't find your why on anything in your life, you fall back in the life of mediocrity again, because you choose the path of mediocrity.
Yeah.
And when you find out that why and make a goal, say ending destination for the thing, because I've talked to so many different writers and or wannabe writers, and I'm sure both of you too as well, because people ask, I want to write a book, but I don't know how to do it, or whatever it is. And you just do it. And you say, I'm going to get it done in X amount of months, or whatever it is. And you find a way, because, when I finished my memoir that I'm finished up to the last chapter, I finished it in 17 days, 60,000 words in 17 days.
Wow, that's some writing.
Because I wrote it in 5 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the night.
And you set yourself that timetable too, Tom, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
You went, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write for this 2 hours. I'm going to write for this 3 hours. And you did it each and every day. That's action towards a dream, isn't it?
Yeah, and you don't have to do it as fast as I did.
Yes.
But it's like, even if you write 15 minutes, or you write 1,000 words or 2,000 words and set that limit, I can never do that. I get on the computer and I'm gone. I just go.
I think Kez is the same. She starts writing and it's just keeps going.
Yeah, I do an hour in the morning, 2 hours at night time. But I also have a husband to look after. Well,
yes,
he's definitely looking after, but I like to keep him company.
Careful words.
But I will say one thing to you, Tom. It's a good thing. Hello, how are you? I will say one thing to you is working with children. I actually worked with children as a teacher in my early life, and I found the only way that we can find our why is to teach the young ones their why.
Mhm.
Show them how to find their why. Later on in life, when I became a writer, and then I realized I had to mentor people. And I have she was 12 when she came to me, and she's now 16. She's written 2 books. She's still, she found her why. And she said to me, without you, just being there and listening to her story. And that's where I see you, Tom, is helping the young ones find their why and listening to their story and helping them correct it, because that's the biggie, helping them see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is a correct way of thinking. There is so much negativity around us, even in today's news. I mean, I don't even watch the news anymore. I can't be bothered. There's just so much negativity that says violence, brutality, rah, 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 it just goes on. So when you get a child and you can guide them, not mold them, to me that's religion, but to guide them into finding their why, that's enormous. I don't think anyone realizes the enormity of what you can do.
I think with 5-star, you kind of hit it on the head, because we deal with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and they don't know where they're going. They don't know what their potential is, but you have these group of 6 to 8 boys, in my case, 6 to 8 boys, and you go around the table and you find out what their story is, and you find out what they want to do, and what's good or bad. What they want to do doesn't really align with where they should go to, where they want to go. They want to play video games. They want to do this. They want to do this, and there's no really path of where they want to go. But the thing is you want to show these kids that you believe in them. Every single day you watch them, you talk to them, saying they got so much potential. They got so much inside them. They don't even realize it. But you keep on them every week for the whole school year. And it's amazing the transformation that I see in these kids, because they turn around. Not all of them, because there's things going on in their life, and their home life is not the best sometimes. But they're able to find something, find a path that they can actually try to go towards, and that this path they didn't have.
Powerful stuff.
It's powerful, and what's really cool is I've done this will be my 16th year doing 5-star. And I've stayed in contact with quite a few of these kids, and the things that they've accomplished in their life. And they come back to me and says, I would have never gotten where I wanted to go if I didn't get involved with 5-star. And you don't know that. I mean, because you have the kids maybe 2 years at the most, and after the 2 years they go to high school, and so you don't see their development. But you have to have trust in the process that what you're doing now is propelling them to where they want to go later in life. The principles and the core values that we talk about.
I'm sorry, my internet dropped out, and I'm just about to interrupt and say, guys, we are time up, and I'm hating to answer the end of the show. Tom, thank you so much. Don't give up on those dreams. I'm so excited to have you back on the show, Kez. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what Life Without Limits evolves to next. I'm excited about the prospect of a movie, and thank you once again from Kez and I for coming on the Author and Artist Hour. And that, my audience, is your lot for this week. We will be back next week with another amazing guest. Please thank my guest, Tom Russell, my co-host, Kez Wickham St. George. That's your lot for this week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
I'm so grateful that you've come on the show today to tell us about this process, because we must tell these stories. We